Good morning or good afternoon, class. This is your day 2 of ELA of week 8. And today I am going to read to you pages 12 to 23. So the rest of the book. Okay, and then we will be answering some questions or completing some tasks. So let me just grab my pencil here. So we stopped at page 11 last time. Today we're beginning with page 12, okay? And so right here. All right. So this section on page 12 is titled Answers. They crossed the stream holding hands, stepping carefully. When they reached the other side, they almost crashed into the next boulder. It was hidden in a grove of old pine trees. Do you think there's anything carved on it? Paloma asked. Let's take a look, Papa said. They knelt down together, side by side, and examined the boulder. At first, they couldn't find an arrow or any other carving, and they were about to give up when Paloma screeched. I found something! I found something! She shouted as she leaned closer to the boulder and scraped off some moss with her fingers. Look, Papa, it's not an arrow at all. A whole bunch of letters are carved into the lower part of the boulder. I wonder if we can make them out, she said. I'm afraid you'll have to read them to me. Papa stood up slowly, rubbing his knees. My eyes are too old to make out tiny letters that have been hidden behind overgrown weeds for such a long time. I'm afraid my knees aren't too good either. Paloma leaned closer to the boulder and studied the letters. It took her a long time, but she was finally able to read them all. They don't make any sense, she said. I'll say them to you, but I don't think they mean anything at all. Paloma read each letter out loud, very slowly. G, P, M, M, P, X, U, I, F, E, S, J, O, L, J, O, H, H, P, V, S, E. When she was finished, she said, Maybe they are a code. Do you think that they are a code, Papa? Read them again, Papa said. Maybe I can make some sense of them if you read them again. Paloma said the letters again, and then she repeated them one more time. As she read, she could hear her grandfather's footsteps. He was pacing slowly through the dead leaves and pine needles. Papa always paced when he had something important to think over. Do they mean anything to you? She asked when she was done. Indeed they do, her grandfather said, still pacing. Indeed they do. What do you think the letters mean? I'm not exactly sure, Papa told her, but I think it's a cipher, and I think I recognize it. Paloma knew what a cipher was. It was a code that substituted letters or numbers for the real letters in a message. Ciphers like that one have been used in many wars to keep the enemy from learning about battle plans, Papa explained. Okay, and then the next section, cracking the code. Did you use a cipher in the war? Paloma asked. I saw them used in World War II. The Germans had a very clever machine called the Enigma machine that substituted letters for other letters. The code talkers often used a cipher as well in case a Native American language speaker was captured and forced to translate messages by the enemy. But the first substitution cipher was invented by Julius Caesar more than 2,000 years ago. This is an example of a Caesar cipher. Can you break the code? And so this is for you. Okay, they give you a code with letters and then there's a hint. This cipher shifts each letter in the alphabet forward by the same number of letters. I wonder if these letters were used in a war too, Paloma said. Papa had to think about that. He paced for a very long time, and then he stopped beside his granddaughter and cleared his throat. I think I remember something, he said. As you know, a great war took place right around here. The Civil War, right, Papa? Paloma asked. Yes, about 150 years ago, the Civil War was fought to free the slaves in the South. I think I remember reading that the soldiers and spies in the North used a special cipher. Do you remember what it was, Papa? It was sort of like the Caesar cipher. Read me the letters again. Paloma read the letters slowly. GPMM PXUIFESJOLJOHHPVSE. You forgot the spaces, he said. Read the letters again and don't forget the spaces between the words. Paloma read the letters again. This time, she was careful to pause wherever she saw a space. GPMMPX space, UIF space, ESJOLJOH space, HPVSE. She was just about to ask her grandfather what the letters meant when she noticed something in the cipher that she had seen in codes she had deciphered before. Most sentences contain at least one short common word, and this one was no different. I think I see some interesting letters, she said. Let's say the letters form words. One of the words has three letters. Let's guess that it's a common word. Like and or the, Paloma suggested. There has to be one common word in a sentence. Paloma and Papa were quiet for several minutes as they thought about the three letters. I don't think it's and, Papa said. The letters don't make sense. But it could be the, Paloma said. Maybe the letters UIF stand for the in some way. Papa was smiling now. You are a very smart girl, he said. What letter comes before you in the alphabet? T, Paloma said. And the letter H comes before I, and the letter E comes before F. This is a substitute letter cipher, Papa. Yes, I remember now. During the Civil War, some Northern spies and soldiers used a code called the advanced cipher. They advanced each letter one letter of the alphabet. The drinking gourd. Once they had cracked the code, it was easy to read the message. Do you know what it says? Paloma asked. I do know what it says. Do you know what it says? I know what it says, Papa. It says follow the drinking gourd. But I don't know what the message means. Do you know what it means? Papa chuckled and sat down on a hollow log. We've made quite a discovery, he said. We have found 6 arrows pointing in the same direction. If people followed the arrows, they would reach this boulder, and they would find this cipher. I wonder if the arrows in the cipher were carved during the Civil War. Papa was pacing again now, and Paloma could tell that he was thinking things over in his mind. Before the end of the war, he said, many slaves wanted to escape to freedom in the North. They followed what was called the Underground Railroad. It wasn't really a railroad. It was just a series of routes and directions and safe houses that led the slaves northward. Some slaves who had escaped returned to help other slaves. But who carved the arrows, Papa? I'm not sure we'll ever know that, Papa said. It might have been a northern spy trying to help. It might have been a returning slave who had learned the cipher in the north. Or maybe it had nothing to do with the war. Who knows? Maybe some children were playing a game. Did escaping slaves ever carve directions in trees or rocks? Paloma asked. I've never heard of it happening, but every day people find new information about the Underground Railroad. Just recently, someone discovered a hidden tunnel and a secret room in a house in Iowa where slaves hid out on the way north. This is just a fun fact right here, a quote in song. Here's the first verse of a folk song that gives directions north on the Underground Railroad. When the sun comes back and the first quail calls, follow the drinking gourd, for the old man is waiting for to carry you to freedom if you follow the drinking gourd. What does follow the drinking gourd mean? Paloma asked. The drinking gourd is a group of 7 stars now called the Big Dipper, which can always be found in the northern sky of the United States. Slaves followed the drinking gourd from safe house to safe house until finally they reached freedom. The Big Dipper, drinking gourd. The sun was beginning to set, and tiny slivers of light were flickering through the branches. Paloma took her flashlight from her backpack, turned it on, and took her grandfather's hand. By the time they were on the other side of the stream, the sun had disappeared. Paloma stopped and studied the sky. Are you looking for the drinking gourd? Her grandfather asked. There it is. Paloma was pointing to the bright shape in the sky. Shall we follow it? It's your decision. Are we heading north? Paloma had to think about that for a minute. The drinking gourd would lead them back across the stream, past the boulder with the cipher, and on to places north. We need to go south, Papa. Paloma and Papa turned. They moved slowly like creeping night creatures. The light from Paloma's flashlight led them away from the North Star, past the arrows pointing the other way, out of the woods, and home. And that's the end. Okay. Let's see. So let's go back to the packet here. So again, you complete, and day 2 only has 2 circle maps, and you do have to complete that 2 circle maps, okay? Let me grab my pencil. So you complete the 2 circle maps for day 2. The one to learn the word deciphered and the drinking gourd. Again, look at the glossary for the definition of those words and phrases. And then, like you've been doing all along, making inferences, and you may only make one inference, okay, on these pages that we read today. You make your inference, and you provide your evidence and what you already know. And then the thinking map for your writing of day 2. Okay, this is the prompt. It says, how does Paloma's personality compare to her grandfather's personality? Okay, so that the way that they act, the way that they are, their personality. And notice how it's just asking how they compare. When we compare, we talk about similarities. So how are they similar? Okay. How are Paloma's and Grandpa's personality? How are they the same? So because it's not asking to contrast their personality or to talk about the differences in their personalities, then it's okay if you don't do the bubbles on the outside, okay? Because these are to contrast, or these are to talk about differences. The prompt says, how do they compare? So we're just finding similarities, okay? So take a moment and try to remember, from the story, remember how each one acted, how each one moves, how each one talks, how each one is. And so think of their personality and how they are the same. For example, I will give you one example, and then you will have to come up with 2 more if you can find them, okay? I can see how both of them, they both went into this journey, to find the arrows and then to decipher the meaning of those codes. And they were asking many questions and trying to answer those questions for themselves. And so I think that they are both very curious. They're very curious because they like to learn things and investigate things and find things out. So I would say that they both have a curious personality. So then I would put here, curious. They're both curious, okay? And so again, find out two more ways in which they are the same. Okay, their personality is the same. I can already think of another one. But I am not gonna say it because similarities. That's what you're looking for. I am not gonna say it because I want you to find it out. Okay, they both are very blank because of all this learning that they do together. Okay, that would be another similarity. They're curious. What else? What else are they that you could put in this other bubble? Okay, and so once you complete that part of that thinking map, finding all the ways in which their personalities compare, then you take it into writing, okay? And so here's the directions. It says write a constructed response, so one paragraph, answering the prompt question. Use the thinking map that you created above. Okay, so we're going to use this to answer the question, how does Paloma's personality compare to her grandfather's personality? Okay, I am going to begin this for you. Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, so we're comparing. And comparing means how they are similar or the same. So I could say Paloma's personality is very similar to her grandfather's personality. Okay, so that would be my topic sentence. Okay, saying how their personalities is the same. All right, and then your details could be then the similarities that you found. For example, I am going to put the one that I said, which is that they're both curious. So you could say, to begin with, they both have a curious. I am going to use the word character instead of personality, and that way I don't sound repetitive, okay? They mean the same. So they both have a curious character. And that just means a curious way of being, okay? And then don't forget that then we need some evidence, right? So we could say, my pencil, what happened? I could say, for example, on page, and then at that point, I will need to go back to that text and find a sentence that shows that they are very curious, that they like finding things out. And so I am going back here. I have my book next to me. Let's see. I am looking at page 6. All right. I am still looking for. Okay, I am looking at page 9. You might want to go to in your packet, or maybe I can go back to the packet. And looking at the bottom of page 9, there's some other sentences I'm pretty sure that we can find, but I can see where it shows that Grandpa is just as curious as Paloma, because watch right now, right here. So it says maybe someone could date the plants in the cracks nearest to the carving, but that might not necessarily tell us how old the carving itself is, Papa told her. And then he says, let's try something else. Let's try studying the arrow as it is. So I can see how he is willing to study the arrows. He's excited about that. That means that he's also curious about learning. So I could say here, for example, on page 9, Grandpa suggested to Paloma that they should study the arrow that she found. And usually people who like to study things, that's because they are curious. So that shows that he is curious. I can just explain that. I could say this shows that that they are both curious because they like to learn things together. Okay. And that would be just to show the first one, okay, the first similarity, that they are curious. So now it is your turn, okay, to say at least one more similarity. So you could say another, I'm just going to begin this for you, okay? So another similarity is that they are both, and then big blank. And then you repeat the same thing that I did, okay? Say the similarity, provide some evidence, see if you can explain it. You for sure need more paper, okay? This is such a little space to complete your writing, so please use a separate piece of paper to complete your writing in a neat way. And that's it for day 2.